Okay, a very good afternoon to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining this session on I Have a Dream for India, paving the road for a technologically advanced India at 100. The India of 2047, as our Prime Minister refers to, is definitely one where the golden era of India will get unlocked. I think we are moving from India at 75, 75 years of an independent India where we have achieved a lot in these years, and we are celebrating that as a part of Amrit Mahotsav. But I think it's also time for us to reflect and see how we can make the next 25 years far more meaningful for India to be able to establish its position in the global world, in a world where India will play a far more prominent role than what it has played in the past or continues to play today. And I think, with us as a country now taking on the presidency of the G20, I think it's a momentous year as well for CII, which is not only the secretariat for the B20 that is, working with the government and the other G20 nations for the future of the economy of the world, but also a platform for CII to be able to strengthen India's contribution to the world on an agenda and a platform that brings multiple stakeholders together. I think a holistic development of India is what will lead us to that position. The India at 75 journey over the past 15 years has definitely been one where we have seen that unfold in many, many ways. And I think the role of academia to be able to make that possible has been a very, very important one. And I think we're joined with us, joining us today is Professor Abhay Karandikar, who not only, is the director of the most premier institute, as most like to say in the country, the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, but also represents a sector that has enabled and recognized Indians around the world, technology as the face of the future. And I think, the IIT brand in turning out, engineers and entrepreneurs and leaders today, across the world is unprecedented. So thank you, Abhay, for joining us. Before joining IIT Kanpur, Abhay served for nearly 24 years, as a professor in IIT Bombay. So I think it's a lifetime of IIT for you, and you probably have seen so many students, who you have touched, do such great things, in the world. And I think our goal here, Abhay, is to see how we can really mobilize this and channelize this at scale, not only for, India, but also for the world. Professor is also a founding member and former chairman of TDSI. He's also been a member of TRAI, the Telecom Regulatory, Authority of India, and has founded and mentored startups, of course, in many, many areas, but telecom and networking are two areas that has, been very close to Abhay's heart. I think he's a member of the Technology Innovations Group on 6G, chairs the 6G Spectrum Task Force set up by the Department of Telecom, and has several patents that are issued and pending, contributions to IEEE, 3GPP standards, contribute to a large number of books and papers. And here really is somebody, who we are looking at engaging in a conversation that will enable us to really put technology and India as a technology powerhouse, on the global map. So again, thank you, Abhay, for joining us in this discussion today. And, to begin with, we always talk of an India, that will be built on the pillars of course, economic strength and moral leadership. But I think, technological advancement is going to be a key driver of the future of India. So if you were to just create a vision of a technologically advanced India and an India at 125 years from today, how would you envision that in?
Thank you. Thank you, Rajan, first of all, for inviting me for this and having a conversation with you. As for your question that what is our vision for a technologically advanced India at 100? I think it is, as you rightly mentioned, that in the last 25 years or so, we have made tremendous progress. But going forward, we believe that we need a strong focus on research and innovations in the key technology areas. I mean, in fact, we are envisioning a technologically advanced India where we are creating our own intellectual property, where we are creating our own designs, we are creating our own manufacturing capabilities and using technology in key economic sectors. And that would mean, like, particularly we become strong in the digital technologies, which is going to touch almost every sectors of our day-to-day living. But in the medical and the health sector, in the agriculture technology, in infrastructures and logistics, we use and create a strong intellectual property design and manufacturing regime, where we are not only developing products and creating research and innovations, but we become a country where we are driving the evolution of the technology to the next generations. And as you mentioned in my bio, that I have been working in the telecom sectors primarily, and particularly in the telecom sector. For example, India did not have any voice in the 2G, 3G, or 4G. But when we set up the Telecom Standards Development Society of India, we became an organizational partner of 3GPP, and we have made some contributions to 5G, and maybe we'll make next generation. But if I look at India at 100, we would like to be in a position where we drive the evolution of the technology and not just become first, we were consumer of, let's say, wireless communications. Maybe we will become a developer of technology where we developed our own indigenous products. But going forward, maybe India at 100, we would like to be in the driving seat where we are driving the technology evolution in a manner which makes our country not only, the technologically strong, but also create technologies which makes every sections of our society both socially and financially inclusive. So I think that is the kind of vision that I think we need to set for. And I think we can do this. I'm pretty confident that we have, in that sense, a tremendous opportunity for us as a country to play a significant role in the global technology landscape.
No, I think that's a very, very powerful vision, Abhay, that you have laid out there. And I know kind of driving the evolution of any new technology at a global scale, and especially the types that we are talking of, where there is already a precedent, right? 3G, 4G, 5G, 6G, maybe, I don't know, 7, 8G tomorrow, right? What do you think would, be the things that we need to be able to address on priority, right? I mean, maybe, two opportunities or, two things that, we should be enhancing, strengthening, building upon, and maybe, two challenges, right? That you see, as we look at as, unlocking our technology aspirations for our country.
Yeah. So I think the two big opportunity that we have in our favor is that, we have a very young population, and there's a huge untapped potential of our youth population, which I think with the right focus and with the right directions, we can channelize this entire energy of the youth population. That is, one big opportunity in favor of us. The second opportunity is that, India being one of the, second largest in terms of population and also an aspirational society, we have a very big market ourselves. So we can actually create technology and technology-enabled solution to address, our own society itself. So these are really two big opportunities that we have in front of us in order to become a technologically advanced country. Now, the challenges that we have is, uh, even though, as I mentioned, that in the last few years, we have made tremendous progress, there is still a lot needs to be done in order to create a strong ecosystem of innovations. We have had, a very strong ecosystem of startups, led by our young entrepreneurs and engineers in the recent years. But we still need to create an ecosystem of startups which are working in the high-tech areas, which are developing products in the key technology sectors, which are developing advanced technologies, and which really developed, globally competitive products. So, we had, few startups which are working it in mainly the softwares or in the information technology domain or in the service sectors. But I think now going forward, we really need to create more and more, startups which create innovative technologies to address the problem of, let's say, our farmers and increase the yield and productivity in the agriculture sectors. Innovative technologies develop medical devices, equipments, products indigenously, which actually help and improve the quality of our life and provide affordable healthcare, at a competitive price and equal to a world-class level for our doctors and so on. We need technologies which can improve and build our infrastructure at, and make it again world-class and competitive. So we really need now, entrepreneurs and companies and industries which innovate and use the technologies to address sort of these problems. We still, I think, need to create a strong ecosystem of innovations in that. And I think that is the reason as you know, that our Prime Minister has given this slogan of Jai Anusandhan. And this Jai Anusandhan coupled with startups in these key technology sectors is really the need of the hour. And as I mentioned, we have two big opportunities in our favor. We have a huge untapped youth potential, and we ourselves could be the consumer of these technology elements and components which will be created by our own people.
No, I think, you use that word Jai Anusandhan, and I think it's so important, right? Because innovation actually only happens when people are willing to take risk, right? And I think the culture or an ecosystem, like what you rightly said, gets shaped when we accept failure, especially
Yes.
when we know there are good attempts that are being made. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of those situations, in your, years here. So how do you get people to, how do you encourage them when they fail? I mean, it's just an interesting question. Like, what do you tell them when something doesn't work out or things like that?
No, I think we just need to continue to motivate people and make sure that their enthusiasm and energy and passion is still there. I think failure is actually the part of the life, and unless we have a failures, we cannot really get success. So I think it is really very important for our young engineers and entrepreneurs to sort of understand, and therefore the key task here is that that our experienced leaders and experienced professionals really motivate and channelize the energy of our youth. At the same time, I think we need to create an environment where we can incentivize, particularly if I see that if you want to create an ecosystem, then we really need to have a framework where we incentivize the productivity, we incentivize our engineers, we incentivize entrepreneurs, and at the same time, we incentivize our innovators and researchers so that, they really get motivated to give their best. So I mean, that is really, we should create in order to create our vision of a technologically advanced country for India at 100.
No, and there are, great global examples, Silicon Valley and others, which have created those ecosystems. Of course, India will shape up very differently, and build it very differently. And one of the, attempts that CII is also doing, as an industry representative for private sector, public sector, and for industry at large, is to see how we can, work with Silicon Valley and other such, ecosystems around the world and add it in an Indian context, right? And see how to, strengthen and enhance that. But, as we talk about, accelerating technology development in India, right? I think the role of private sector, because all these, students who come out from your, institutes and others, they either become entrepreneurs or they work with the private sector. And, there's the ability for private sector to drive, rapid, accelerated change on the technology development side is critical. So how do you see the role of private sector? Because I'm sure you work closely with a lot and you have a good view on the private sector in India today.
No, I think the private sector have a huge role to play. In fact, as we have seen, as you mentioned, that you took the example of Silicon Valley, but in general also in the US, you have seen that the private sector industry has played a great role, not only towards the creation of the job and wealth creation, but also actually developing the globally competitive technologies and driving the R&D innovations. So I think the private sector has a huge role to play, and I would really like our private sector industries to really create an environment of a corporate R&D in the private sectors where they can continuously innovate and develop the technologies in order to be globally competitive and developing the technologies and products indigenously. And in this context, I think I believe that the government has a role to incentivize the private sectors in a manner in which the private sectors will be encouraged and incentivized to create a culture of innovations. I mean, this Jai Anusandhan should really become the motto of the private sector industry, and the government really should create a system of incentives so that the other industry can take a lead role in technology innovations in almost all sectors of economy. So I think that's really something we need to create.
Yeah, because the culture of R&D, in India, even if you talk of traditional businesses and larger corporates, right, compared to the rest of the world, what private sector spends on R&D is a much smaller number than what, you see in the rest of the world. So, I think what you rightly say, we got to nurture this culture. I think there's a deep need for a partnership with institutions like yours. The academia industry partnership can also play a very key role, and so how do we really build this culture, right, in India? And do you have some good examples, maybe over your career, where some of these things that have worked well, from an R&D perspective, and maybe share some thoughts around how to really build this at scale? We have 25 years. 25 years is a long period, but we have to measure our this marathon and 400-meter sprints, right? So if we say, what is it that we do today that we can see the fruits of in say 2-3 years, to know that we are, shaping this culture? How would you look at that from here?
Yeah, I think you are absolutely right that we really need to build that industry academia partnerships. And in fact, in almost all the technologically advanced countries, such as US or Europe, there has been a very, very strong partnership between industry and academia. The role of the academia typically in such situation is to develop, is to do the front-end research in the high-tech areas, develop, innovative processes or innovative solutions or intellectual property, And the role of the industry is really to take that innovations and that intellectual property and develop it into a commercializable, deployable product and take it to the market. And that's where really the role of the industry is. In order that this industry, academia collaboration can be scaled, I think what is really needed is a framework where both industry and academia can start working on the technology innovation as a partner and not like as an afterthought. Right now, for example, in IITs, we have a framework where any innovations or the technology which is developed by a faculty member or in the lab or something, that can be licensed to the industry which is interested. So if I develop a technology, then of course I will look for the licensing partners. And if there is some now such things, although they have been successful, but maybe we achieve only 5 to 10 or 20% success. I think really what is needed is that right from the beginning itself, the beginning of the research itself, the industry and academia, they work together, where industry really brings the market feedback. It really brings the things that what is really are the pressing problems in the key sectors and how they can be solved using technology, and then work with the researchers in the academia to develop finally a solution which is not only technologically advanced, but also can be deployed at an affordable price, and which can be sort of commercialized and address the market needs. So now this kind of partnership to develop, we need to make investment and funding in the research and innovation. And this also needs incentive from the government for this kind of partnerships. So I would say that if we have schemes and policies, currently some schemes and policies do exist where the joint research projects of industry and academia are funded by the government. But I think this needs to be done in a much more scaled up fashion than only, at a few places here or there or in a few areas. This really needs to be scaled up at a much larger level. Another thing that I would say that in general, like in India, in R&D funding is done by the government, let's look at our the needs of our defense. The defense itself has a huge requirements for technologically advanced solution. Another one is the space sector, the ISRO, where we have again a huge requirements for the technologically advanced solutions, and also an opportunity for us. Typically, what has happened is that all the R&D funding has been either in the public institutions or in the R&D labs or in the academia. But I think we really need to make some investments even in the private sectors and in the industry as well, where the industry is really incentivized to kickstart, because somewhere we have to make a beginning. At least we have to come to a level in the beginning by giving some seed investments, so that even the industries are encouraged to work with the academia, and then ultimately set up their own corporate R&D labs. And finally, of course, it is quite likely that even the industry R&D can be driving some of the technology innovation, and sometimes even the industry R&D can do the basic research as well. So really, I think in the next 25 years, we should reach a stage where not only the academia and industry partnership is strengthened, but also the industry has its own in-house R&D culture of doing an advanced technological research. So I think that is really, the goal that we need to set.
No, you've been very kind to private sector industry to say that private sector is not taking enough risk, right? I think somewhere, if we truly want to have the vision, that you have talked, where we will drive the evolution of new technologies. I think, there is a commitment, there is an investment that is required, that happens over a period of time, right? Before you start unlocking and seeing the value of what is being invested. And there will be failures. And I think somewhere as a private sector, especially, you have to see how you can absorb those risks, as you move, on the journey. And, I moved from a traditional business, which was in large scale manufacturing and textiles, packaging, to what you rightly mentioned, digital technology led, playing a role in daily digital life of people. And while digital adoption, Abhay is already quite significant and strong, you still need to invest significantly in, helping shaping the consumer behavior, in a manner that makes it, business-wise, viable, right? And I think there are so many nuances to new technologies and how do you really make that happen, that it requires a constant investment from private sector, to see that emerge, successfully. And I think, given that industry sectors themselves are changing nomenclature today, right? Like today, when you talk of healthcare, you don't talk healthcare, you talk health tech. You talk med tech, you talk infra tech, you talk, logitech, right? The word tech clearly means that it's so integrated into every industry sector that I'm sure we'll see, a lot of that. And given that you represent an education institution and you rightly said that the power of our future is our young population, 1 in 10 people in the world today is an Indian under the age of 25. I think that's a very powerful statistic. And we know that same young Indian and what that has led, that phase has changed technology around the world. So as young people want to become part of the technology ecosystem, right? What's your advice to them? How do you, what will you tell them, right? And how do you, of course, you said motivate them, but what's your message to young people of this country who want to get into the technology ecosystem?
Yeah, I think my message is that, this is really a great time to be young and innovative. Maybe, I should have been now at the age of 25 or 30, then a lot more ideas, because there is a right ecosystem is getting developed, right mindset is there, right government policies are there, there is an appetite, and overall there is an atmosphere of encouragement and incentivism. So I think this is really the right time, and my therefore message to youth will be that they should really exploit the opportunity that is being provided today by this ecosystem, and really make best use of the opportunities to address the problems and to address the solutions that are needed. So that is number one advice. And number two is they shouldn't get discouraged by initial hiccups or any initial failure, because the sea of opportunity is so vast that even if they have sort of initial hiccups, I'm confident that in the next 2 decades or so, they will have so much chances of becoming a successful technologist or entrepreneurs or industrialist or a researcher or innovator, that they can be, at 2 decades later, can be really in the driving seat. So I think, in short, my message is that they should really seize the opportunity that is now being provided by today's environment.
So you nicely said, right, that if you were young today, you would love to be. So what triggered your entry into technology, whenever it did, I'm presuming 2.5, 3 decades ago?
Yes. No, I think my interest in the technology area, particularly in the electrical engineering and the telecom technology, has been really the fascination that the basic thing like the voice communication or the video communication offers an opportunity for us to get digitally connected. And that was really, that fascination with the technology. And today, as we have seen, as the technology has progressed, the digital technology has progressed, it is not only being used for just voice or video communication, but we have reached a stage where even devices and things are getting interconnected with each other, in an era of Internet of Things. So I think so that's really quite exciting. I mean, if you look at like 25 years back or 30 years back, when I was researching on the wireless communication, it was primarily only a cellular phone, and the key concern was that how do you use a telephone when you are on the go, like when you are mobile. From that era, you have come to an era where these things or billions of devices can get interconnected and talk or exchange messages with each other. So I think this has been, in that sense, a fascinating journey, not only from the point of view of technological evolutions, but from my own point of view, where I was intimately watching and at times contributing to this journey.
That's very interesting, because you and I are connected on a very similar wavelength there, because I also majored in digital signal processing and image processing, and I still remember when I was working on JPEG standards at that time, and said, oh, we have to transmit a same image in a much smaller file size, and then MPEG that emerged. How do you take motion capture and communicate that right in near real time? That excitement, of course, when I worked with NASA and then came back, that exposure and the ability, for young people to engage with things that are exciting today, but then try and understand what that will mean 20 years from today, 10 years from today, is a phenomenally exciting journey. And somewhere along the way, young people will find their key strength, or their key passion. And then once they attach to that, I think, both of our examples and millions others, right? There is no end to what you can achieve. So I would join you in telling young people that they're born pretty much technologically native, as they say today, compared to earlier generations, and they should leverage that significantly.
I think one more thing that has happened is that that today we are living like in a global village, and therefore access to information and access to how the technological landscape is changing, it is now available to us instantly. I mean, almost. And I mean, you don't have to travel to the US or Europe, but you can almost, sitting here, can imagine how the technology is working, and we are almost having access to state of the art technology, just because now we are living it in a global sort of village. And this is actually also provides an opportunity, because we could almost, I mean, our young population or our innovators or our researchers have an opportunity to develop and leapfrog the technology in that sense. Unlike in the earlier years, in 20 years or 30 years back, when we really did not have access not only to the technology, but also did not have access to information, or there was always a delay in of access of information or access of technology. So now that is also I think a big opportunity that today's young people have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's exciting and interesting, right? Because, when you talk of the future of India of 2047 being driven by the evolution of new technologies, right? Many of them are in very nascent stages today, right? So I mean, just be interesting to get your point of view, on so many new emerging technologies today, right? Be it the drone technology, be it the chip in the brain, right? Be it 3D printing, and so many others. What do you find most exciting? I mean, I know they're all very exciting and they can all shape very differently. But personally, to you, is there something that you find more exciting than other things?
No, I think for me, the most exciting technological evolutions that will happen is that when we will have this integration of the satellite and the drones kind of technology with the today's wireless phones. So, in fact, that perhaps would enable a scenario where we are able to carry the video calls very seamlessly while your flight is taking off and you are in the flight. Even then you are continuing the conversations, both voice and video, as seamlessly as you were doing when you were on the road. So I think that is really a possibility, and that means the next generation of this technology will bring all these diverse platforms, whether it is satellite or whether it is unmanned aerial vehicles or whether it is cars or whether it is bullet trains or high-speed trains or whether it is aircraft. They are all integrated in a seamless fashion. And I think that is really, I see an opportunity where, we will have a very seamless experience of the digital connectivity.
No, absolutely. And then also with devices changing so rapidly, maybe you just wear an eyeglass and you're seeing it on that. You don't need anything or probably nothing else. It becomes completely seamless. And I think that's the excitement about the role of technology in shaping the future, of the world. And India's opportunity, therein, I think lies in that. I don't know how we've spent so 35 minutes already discussing this. I know we have 5-7 minutes and we might have 1 or 2 questions. But, before I get to that, Abhay, you've been so, so clear on the potential of India, right? And I know it is something that doesn't come naturally, right? It comes, over a period of time, seeing some great things that are happening, seeing the pockets of excellence, for India. But when you go to bed, right, we all dream, and if I were to say, and ask you, like, what is your dream? I know we had a vision, but dream for India at 100 is a little, you can add as much to it, beyond the realistic vision, right? It's the dream for India. So what is it for India at 100 that comes from your heart? What do you really wish for India? What do you want it to be, and how do you see that evolve?
No, I think the dream for me is that we are like a global superpower, and today, what is happening is that we are always looking towards the West, where the Googles or Facebooks or Amazons of the world, they are there in the US, and we have the Silicon Valley in the US, and we are always looking towards this. Maybe India at 100, I have a dream where the rest of the world is looking towards India. We are, not going to US or Europe, but rather the US and the Europe and the rest of the people are coming here, and they are all excited and see now, like, for example, we get excited, oh, there is Silicon Valley. I hope that India at 100, I dream where, rest of the world people will come and see, oh, look at this Kanpur, how exciting things are happening. What technology they have developed. And maybe, I can emulate that model and go back to San Francisco and do this. So this is really, what I would really dream, that, we reach to that stage of a global superpower.
No, I think that's so brilliant. And with people like you at the helm of, large and right institutions in the country, I'm sure that dream can be converted to a reality, much sooner than otherwise. I think it's a very, very exciting time, like what you rightly said, for India, a beautiful dream, for all of us to dream together and execute, right, as we move towards India at 100. There are a couple of questions that have come to me, from some of the participants, as well as, those who are looking at shaping some of this. One of the questions is that, when you look at, inclusivity in the development of India, right? The role of technology, and, how is inclusive India, going to be shaped through this? Are we achieving our sustainable development goals to create a sustainable global future, right? How will the role of technology come in helping shape that?
Yeah, I think I already mentioned that we really need to become technologically advanced and use the technology to be socially and financially and environmentally sort of inclusive. So obviously, I think it is important that when we develop the technology, we develop the technology by taking into account a sustainable future. Otherwise, we will reach India at 100. We would have all the technology, but we will go down the path of extinction very rapidly. So I think it is very, very important to develop a sustainable technology from the point of view of inclusion. And secondly, I think also it is important that when we develop the technology, or when we become a technologically advanced nation, we include all sections of the society and the entire population, whether it is living it in the cities, or whether it is living in urban areas, or whether they are living it in the rural areas, or whether they are living it in the far-flung areas. We have to be really creating a sustainable, inclusive future for everyone. So I think that's really has to be the technological landscape in terms of the development.
No, thank you. I think makes complete sense. I think we have to figure that piece out, because otherwise, what uses technology if it's not solving real world challenges and problems, especially around sustainability? The other question is like, how do we create more IITs in India? How do we get more institutions of excellence in India?
No, I think, we don't have to create IITs. I think we have a large number of colleges, institutions, and universities. And as I already mentioned, that we have a very large young and youth population who has a tremendous potential, and they have a large untapped potential. So it is not that we have to create more IITs. What is really needed is that we have to increase the quality of all of our existing institutions. I mean, we need to be in a situation where we don't have to say that this is an IIT. All our academic institutions should really come up to the same level. And that means, we have to really put our energy and our resources in making sure that how do we make both public and private institutions and colleges and universities to increase their quality. How do we create a culture of research and innovation, not just in IITs, but in all our institutions and colleges? And also, how do we create an environment and a framework where young students, whether they are studying in IITs or whether they are studying in other colleges, they really get encouraged to do innovations, to do R&D, and to do the technology development. So I think that is one very, very important focus I think that we need to have. And this is really one of the challenge that we have, that how do we make our academic institutions stronger, and create an R&D ecosystem in these academic institutions.
No, I think a follow-on question to that, and probably this will be the last question, is: do you want to share a little more insight or information on the artificial heart being built by IIT Kanpur? And is it going to be a game changer in the sector of healthcare globally? The question that has come to you.
No, actually, we are developing the left ventricular assist device. It is not yet in a form where, I mean, because such complex devices require significant sort of efforts, because not only the device will undergo animal trials and then later on human clinical trials. Before that, it needs to come up to a shape where it is ready even for the animal trial. So right now we are developing it in the lab, and yes, it is a moonshot project in that sense. If it is successful, then yes, it will revolutionize the medical implants industry. We are working with the top doctors. In fact, Dr. Devi Shetty and his team and several other cardiac surgeons, we have been very closely interacting, and they have been advising us. And hopefully with their advice and our team, maybe in a year and a half time, maybe in 2024 sometime, we will be in a situation where we will have a device ready, and that will really, if it is successful, then that will really be a game changer in the affordable healthcare.
No, and actually Devi was, spoke to us on exactly India at 100 of the future, and I think the right word you use, the affordability, right, which India can create, the frugality with which we can innovate, is very different. And what a lovely note to, to bring this conversation to a close, Abhay, because, you started by saying that we have to drive the evolution of new technologies. And here is something which you call the moonshot, right?
Yeah.
But which has to become a process probably for India,
Yes.
and then what you rightly said, all of San Francisco will be coming to Kanpur to find what to take back there. And I think
that is a dream. That is, since you ask, what is a dream, then that is a dream.
It's such an exciting dream, and I remember this conversation with Honorable Prime Minister. This was back in when India was celebrating India at 60, and Professor C.K. Prahlad had come from the US, and we had met him and talked about the vision for India at 75, Amrit Mahotsav as CII. And one of the things that CK and we had put in our vision document was that India should aspire to have 10 Nobel Prize winners, by the time we turn India at 75. And, Prime Minister then, he was talking in Hindi and he said, "Ye cheez to main manta hi nahi." And CK was getting hassled because, he was speaking English. He's saying, "No, what I mean is we have to create a culture of intellectual, transformation in this country so we can aspire." To which he said, "भैया मैं सब समझता हूँ, भारत को ऐसा अवार्ड रखना चाहिए कि दुनिया आए हमसे वो अवार्ड लेने के लिए, ना हम नोबेल प्राइज के लिए जाएं." So basically, which is similar to what you said, San Francisco coming to Kanpur is about the world coming to India to seek, from India, what is the right thing and what is the good thing. And I think that shift of power will automatically put us into a very different position, in the world. So again, thank you, Abhay, for such a lovely, engaging and enriching conversation. Been a pleasure chatting with you, and we'll take you up many times along this journey of the next 25 years as we work to build a great India. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.